So I am just doing my reflection today, talking about a few conversations that I had. I didn't necessarily set out to have specific conversations, they just kind of happened, and then I used my reflective, like, listening skills on these conversations. I didn't set out to have like an active listening session and really try to hone in on the skills, and set aside time to have a conversation that was going to be challenging. Rather, they just came to me and I just rolled with the punches, and tried to use the skills. I would say it was easier for me to do this because I am home right now, and I'm getting ready to head back to Switzerland, so that's interesting. And I just recently got my booster, and still in my family, I'm the only one in my immediate family that has gotten their COVID vaccine. And my mom really wants to come visit me in South Africa, and I'm like, Mom, you really can't do that unless you're vaccinated. And my grandmother is vaccinated, and she's been traveling too, so we've kind of been having this discussion with my mom, what's the hold up here, what's going on, why do you feel unsafe, kind of, or what, because they have mentioned they just don't feel safe taking the vaccine. So I started today, I had a conversation with my mom, and she was like, yeah, I would really, really like to take this upcoming trip with my grandmother, but I would have to get vaccinated, and I would have to get vaccinated soon in order to go on the trip. And I was like, yeah, for me, I realized that I wouldn't get, I think one thing I kind of learned is you kind of have to adapt your narrative and the way that you talk, and how you bring about the message to your audience. And I wouldn't say the same things to someone living in rural Virginia, where I'm from, to someone living in a big city, or because different people face different issues, and you need to be very cognizant of that. So one issue that is really pertinent in rural Virginia, or rural areas in general, are food deserts and access to quality food. And I am such a big advocate for this. I really mention this a lot. And my parents, I kind of, because I am gone a lot and I do travel a lot, I do have access to good foods, and I always, whenever I leave the country or leave home, I always lose weight, or I just feel a lot better because of the foods that I'm eating. Anyways, this relates back to the COVID vaccine, because I realized the way I could talk to my mother about getting the COVID vaccine was, she recognizes that there's a problem with the food that we have here. There's low quality food, and a lot of times we don't really know what's in the food. There's a lot of things that are cancer causing, and just things that are generally not good in a lot of the foods that we eat in this area. So I was just like, Mom, the way that I would look at it is, you don't really know what is in the food that we're eating. You don't know really what's in this bag of Cheetos or this hot dog that you're about to eat. But, if you want to continue to live your life, you should just take the vaccine. If you're gonna die from cancer anyways because of the food that you're eating, you might as well go on the trip. I don't know, maybe it was a weird way to relate it, but I think it really hit a nerve with my mom because she was like, that's true, because we really like don't know what we're putting into our bodies all the time. And I think that's what got to the core of the argument. We don't know what we're putting in our bodies. And it's not just the COVID vaccine, it's not just the food that we're eating, it's the water that we're drinking, it's in the pharmaceuticals, it's in the makeup products that we have. I feel like that leads to like this big distrust in the government, in a sense, like what is good for us and what's not, and why are we being lied to about, not lied to, but almost like manipulated into like thinking things are good for us when they're not. It goes back to like even like the food marketing, like they have these really addictive and bright marketing schemes for these really bad foods, and they are not good for us. And so it kind of goes back to like we don't really know what are the long-term effects of this thing, whether that be food or the vaccine or even the flu shot. Like I have known many people in my area who don't take the flu shot. Like they are like, wow, well, I don't really know year to year what the effects of the flu shot are. It's like a very big thing to be distrusting because they feel, a generalization in this area, that they don't know who to trust. So a lot of times they like to make their own foods and they go back to like their own ways of farming, or like the olden ways of like natural healing, whereas like old remedies for like, I don't know, like the cold, or like things that have been in families for years. So it's really interesting to see like how I got my mother to like think about something differently, because I used something that I knew would be applicable to her situation. And I think that's important, because if I would have just came at it by saying, well, you're protecting other people, I think that argument could have worked, because there are people in my family who have had COVID, and my mother has had COVID, and I think my mom would have gone on board with that, and she does wear a mask and things like that. But I think the issue still goes down to the distrust, and like what exactly am I putting in my body, and why is it so, like, why do I feel that I don't know what the long-term effects of this are. So I think just like coming at it from a different angle, or like maybe instead of like coming at it from like, oh, it's mandated, or it's just like coming at it from a different angle, I think is really pertinent, and customizing your reflective listening. And I think when we do these exercises more with people that we don't know, and like environments that we're not familiar with, I think like even when we had discussions in class with our last cohort, we didn't really all know each other that much. So I think it was important for us to kind of, when there was heated debates or like topics, to like recognize body language and how to understand verbal cues, and just like differences in mainly like just human nature, to kind of gauge how you should flow the conversation. And so I think when you don't know someone and you don't know how they are in general, it becomes more difficult to be a reflective listener, because you're not sure how to kind of get the background information you need, and some people aren't as open to tell you that. But I was really lucky, and I got some really good information with some really good outcomes today. So I am really happy about that, and I am going to be using this in my everyday life. So thanks.